Imagine waking up tomorrow with the power to predict everything that's going to happen in your life. Imagine how differently you would start living your life. One of the biggest challenges I find with most people is they want to do something, they want to achieve something, but they're too scared to do it. And this is the thing that stops them. It's the fear of failure, it's the fear of not achieving, it's the fear of losing. So we want to overcome that. So I'm going to give you some of the ways that I've learned over the last 10 years to really manage this, so you can get over that thing that you're stuck at, and so you can carry on moving forward to achieve the things you want in life. And imagine to have the power to do that. So the first one is risk assessment. You've got to look at the entire process and figure out, is this process likely to fail, or is this process likely to succeed? And when you can work that out, you can manage the risk. A lot of people, when they get into something, they haven't even done a risk assessment. So for example, if you start a brand new business and you want to spend money on marketing, what is the risk assessment? You can spend this money and make nothing, or you can spend this money and you can make something. But you've got to look at the likelihood of that happening. That's why when you learn new strategies, you can de-risk that entire process. But you need to do the risk assessment first, then you can make an informed decision on what to do. Instead of going gung-ho into something, and that's where a lot of people, they lose out, you need to start assessing it. Number two is risk migration planning. So what do I mean by this? So risk migration planning is you want to look at, okay, what is the best case scenario and what is the worst case scenario? And when you plan this, you're going to look at the likelihood of it happening. So for example, let's say you start a business right now and you're not sure what business to start. Or let's say you invest in a cryptocurrency and you're not sure if it's going to go up or if it's going to go down. Or let's say you invest in a stock or a piece of real estate. You need to assess, okay, what is the worst case scenario and what is the best case scenario? So for example, when I'm doing property flips, so I buy property and sell property, a lot of people, they go off the market value, but actually you should be deducting a percentage off that market value in order for you to start getting into it. But why? The biggest reason is you never want to go with the market value when you want to sell your property, because chances are whenever you put it in the market, people are always going to make an offer for that property. So that means it's going to always be below its market value. So that's in a property example. So let's say you are going to invest in a company, or you want to buy some stock in a company. That stock could go up, or it could go down, or it could go sideways. You know, a lot of people, when they get into the stock market, they're getting on the rise up, or sometimes when everyone's talking about it, it's already at the top, and then that's when it comes down. So a little clue is when everyone's talking about it, that might be a little bit too late. You need to get into the inner circles and you need to join masterminds, sometimes having a coffee with somebody and they'll just randomly just talk about something they're doing, but that could be the thing that can really grow. I'll give an example. About 8 months ago, I got to sit down with a good friend of mine, he's a billionaire, and he just mentioned this little company called Nvidia, right? And this is when AI got really big. I didn't really take notice of it at the time. We were just having a conversation. But had I was listening intently, I could have basically used that same strategy. He rolled all that up and he made a massive gains on that. So that's why you want to look at best case, maybe middle case, and worst case. The third one is diversification. So you may have heard me talk about the 30-30-30-10 strategy. So what is that? So when you take your money, for me, I do 30% into my own business, 30% into other people's businesses, 30% into digital assets and physical assets, and 10% into what we call a moonshot, meaning something that's high risk. What a lot of people do, they take all their money, they put it into a moonshot. When it goes to zero, then they're in a bit of bother. So when you diversify, try not to keep everything into one source. That's why for me, when I look at investing, I split in different asset classes. Like sometimes real estate does well, it doesn't. Sometimes the stock market does well, sometimes the Web3 market and the blockchain market and the crypto market does well, sometimes business. So everything's very cyclical. So we have to make sure that we diversify our funds, and we want to make sure that we diversify in the risk. This is one of the biggest challenges. Even those of you, if you're like, oh, I'm not sure what profession to go into, right? You say, well, I want to be a doctor, I want to be this. Like sometimes, like I know friends who have got an MBA, and once they graduate, they can't even get a job. Why? Because they are overqualified and underexperienced. People say, oh, I'm the jack of all trades and master of none. It should be the other way around. It should be a master of all trades and a jack of none, if that makes sense. The fourth thing when you are looking at the risk is insurance. When you drive a car, you don't drive a car with no insurance, right? Even your life insurance. Do you know you can even insure against your work income? So let's say you earn X amount of dollars. Let's say you're in a profession that requires you to protect a part of your body. You can actually insure anything. There's going to be points in time where you're going to do something. Actually, you know, if I buy that property, I'm not sure about this. It's got a bit of subsidence in there. It's got this report's come back. You can indemnify against it. A lot of people don't know that. So take out insurance to pass on that financial burden to a third party, because you've got the insurance that can protect you. That's why also, if you're in business, you should have, not when I say insurance, also have good legal counsel as well, right? That also acts as insurance with, you know, people potentially coming after you. So that's why for a lot of people, when they're trying to do something, they don't get into that whole mindset of really finding out what they need to do to be able to do that. And insurance is something that can really protect you. Anything you do from now and you're like, oh, I'm not sure about that, look up, is there insurance for it? Oh, I want to start this business, but I'm not sure if okay, is there insurance for it? So when you do that, then you start to diversify. And then when you put all these things together, you can see how going to something that's very risky now becomes de-risked and managed. Number 5 is regular reviews. Is what you're doing, is your risk management of the things that you're doing, is the net holding safe? Because sometimes things change. Sometimes the economy changes. Sometimes people's buying behavior changes. For example, I was with a friend today. We were just having dinner on the rooftop. And he said to me, John, like where I'm living right now, like a lot of the landlords have put the prices up, the retail market's completely retracted, and now what's happening is that the sales cycle is getting longer and longer and longer and longer. So the retail where I'm right now is suffering. That's when the market changes and they move to different places where, for example, if the currency is high, currency is low, people will go to different places to buy things. You got to regularly review whatever risk management place that you've put in, whatever thing that you're getting into. Is that risk margin being shortened or is it growing? Shortened means that, okay, it's getting riskier and riskier and riskier and riskier and riskier. I'll give you an example. So if you are a influencer, if you are a KOL, if you are someone who is a public figure of your company, you have something called a key man risk or a key person. They should really call it key person risk. So you have a key person risk. So if something happens to that person, what is the backup? This is why right now I'm using artificial intelligence. I'm putting a lot of my stuff into AI, into what we call an LLM, large language modeling, right? So then we can train that to basically talk like me, and I can also create an AI avatar of myself which can now create and talk for me as well. So this is why I think it's really important to be able to regularly review things. That is it working? Is it not working? Does it need more protection? Because here's the thing, when you're in business, there's always new laws that come in. If you're doing it, you might be breaking it. So you want to have someone overlook that, and as my in-house legal says, CYA, to cover your ass. Okay, the 6th one is have clear policies. In the absence of rules, people make up their own rules. So you have to have these policies in place. Okay, when this happens, do this. When this happens, do this. So no one's messing things up. Like you actually have exact protocol on what to do. And what I find with a lot of people, they're always focused on things that may not be of best interest to that company because there's no policy in place for it. So hold on a second, this is a gray area. If this person does this, then do we do that? So for example, in your business or in your life even, if you don't have any policies for your life, things that you will not do, things that you will do, these are the things that manage the risk. Biggest reason why people don't do well in business and life when they want to achieve something, and it's not that they don't have the knowledge. A lot of people are really, really smart. So why are these people really, really smart but they're not successful? Because they're not taking risk. It's about managing the risk. It's your appetite to risk. And yes, when you get into entrepreneurship, you can lose everything. When you do investments, you can lose everything. This is why if you put these things in place, having policies in place, for example, when I'm investing in a company, I'm gonna look at the deck. Who's on the deck? How long they've been around? Are they profitable? Or if they're not profitable, are they growing and scaling? The policy is if it doesn't meet one of these criterias, it needs to have at least 5 of these, for example, 6 criterias. If it doesn't, then we don't invest. One of the biggest challenges I've had is every time I've lost money, I've always broken one of these rules. When you have these policies, stick to them and make it a part of your culture. Number 7 is education and training. The biggest way to de-risk the things in life is to get educated in it. Now, why don't people get educated? Because they're too lazy. They're not willing to put the time in. They're not willing to attend that seminar. They're not willing to fly halfway around the world to have a meeting with somebody who can potentially change the entire trajectory of their life. It's incredible. I just don't understand. Like, would you have dinner with somebody if they were to tell you the step-by-step process and give you the one tip that can dramatically 10x your income or 10x your life? Yes, I think you would. But a lot of people, they don't get education and they don't get training. Get educated, read books, attend seminars, attend training courses. That's why I still do what I do, because not only do I get to speak at these events, I get to attend the events, I get to learn at the same time. And actually a lot of the deals are not done when you're in the event. They're done in what we call the green room or the hallway conversations or the breakfast the morning after. That's when a lot of the deals happen. When you are de-risking that process, when you're getting educated, you get to learn all these things. And sometimes it's having the conversation with someone saying, hey, look, I know you're in this industry, but what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've made, biggest failures that you could learn from that I should know? Just asking simple questions like that makes a massive impact to that person's life, because you're now shortcutting and you are leapfrogging that entire process. Number 8, crisis management. Again, if you're managing risk and something happens, you've got to have a crisis management situation. Sometimes it's a lose-lose deal, but sometimes it's big loss or small loss deal. And that's why it's so important. For example, if something happens, then your reputation might be on the line, your business might be on the line, you as a person, as a brand may be on the line. What are some of the practices you can put into place that can really help manage that entire process? Let's say something happened. I remember there was this CEO on one of these big shows, and he owned a jewelry company. The interviewer asked him the question, what do you think of your jewelry? And he said, I wouldn't buy any of my jewelry. It's made of this stuff. And straight away, the stock went like this. First of all, why would you say something like that? Second of all, okay, if that happens, how do you manage that process? What should the team do? If they start getting phone calls, does everyone jump on the phone call and start justifying different things? Or do you have one blanket statement that is consistent all the way through? What can you say? What can't you say? I'm telling you, if you get into business, these are some of the things you really need to start consider. I see too many people get into this crisis situation and then it gets even worse. Maybe you might have a statement, and maybe if it's drafted by a lawyer or your crisis management team or your in-house legal, getting on the facts and figures, you have one statement, hey, go and read this. Instead of someone saying, oh yeah, and then that person said this person said that, and then you start getting Chinese whispers. Number 9 is financial reserves. I know this sounds really basic, but how many of you right now watching me put money aside for stuff? You need to have a pot, a war chest that can keep you running for a long time in case something happens. And by the way, a lot of people learned the hard way during the whole craziness that happened in 2021. You've got to make sure that you at least have 6 to 12 months of reserve funds there in case something happens. And you know what's really good about this as well? When you start getting to this mindset of having these reserve funds, what starts to happen is you get less desperate to make deals, you get less desperate to go and make money, then you have clarity, you can sometimes pull back a little bit to go, you know what, I'm going to take this month off and focus on this. You see, sometimes you have to let go in order to grow. And you know where a lot of people get into trouble? Because they don't do business, they don't have a CFO, they don't have anyone doing their accounts. Here's what happens. They make all this money, they start spending all the money, tax bill comes in, VAT bill comes in, and then they're in trouble. So you need to start allocating some of that straight away and just put it into account. Basically, it's a concept called tax yourself first. So when money comes in, move it out of the account immediately. I would personally recommend that you have a direct debit. So as soon as the money hits the account, then it's automatically debited out of the account so you don't even see it. And if you don't see it, you don't feel it. And I know what you're thinking, but John, but I need to live on every single penny. Actually, if you write down all the things that you're spending your money on right now, there are things in that list that you actually want, but you don't need. So what are the actual bare necessities of this? A lot of people, they freak out. They go, well, John, I need that. Do you really need that Netflix? Yeah, but I need that. Do you really need to go and buy that bag? Yeah, but John, I need that. Do you really need that car? Start thinking about all these different things, and not even saying being frugal. Because actually, I disagree with that statement of making all this money, not spending a penny of it and being a miser. Because what's the whole point? You make money so you want to enjoy your life with it. Because once you get to the end of your journey, you can't take it with you. And even if you leave it behind, the government can take a lot of that unless you have trust and things in place. But the whole point is this: tax yourself first. As soon as it hits the account, move it out into a separate account that you never see, never touch. And when that tax bill comes, when that VAT bill comes, great, go into that account and bang, that's what it's used for. That's proper cash management. Manage your cash flow. They say cash is king, but cash flow is Kong, like King Kong. The last one, this is the most important one of all of them. By the way, if you're enjoying this, like this video. If you know somebody who's really wanted to do something but they're scared of taking risk, forward this video to them because it will really help them manage the risk. And also, if you have any questions for me, leave a comment below and I'll personally come in and answer those questions. Just a quick aside, by the way, because a lot of people always ask me, John, where do you learn all this content from? Because I fly around the world, I get to hang around with millionaires, billionaires, successful entrepreneurs, public figures, CEO of companies, celebrities, and I learn a lot of this stuff from them. We actually have a membership called success.club. I'll put a link below. If you check out the link tree, you'll see it in there. But we've created a membership where every month you can learn from some of my mentors and teachers. So the last one is the use of technology. One of the best things you can do, especially if you're in business right now, is if you want to manage the risk and the cash flow, you might want to have a cash flow management spreadsheet. So here's all the money coming in, here's all the money that needs to collect, here are all our debitors, here's how much that we're going to get. Because sometimes the reason people get into a lot of this cash management issues is they go, all this money comes in, but they don't think about the costs. The costs associated with what you're left with, is it good ROTI? R-O-T-I, return on time investment. For most people, it's like, actually, John, it's not. You do all of this work just to make this a little bit of money. But then you also have to calculate the intrinsic value that comes from that. For example, I fly around the world and sometimes the promoters say to me, oh, we have this many people here. Okay, so I fly there and it's like a quarter of the people they say there. I'm there anyway, so let's just do the best job that we can. But then we got to look at what else can we do around that. how the figure's going to look. When you have a spreadsheet, when you have technology and tools, you can predict the outcome of what you would need. So for example, to make it a worthwhile trip, you need to get this deal and this many business coming in. You can extrapolate using spreadsheets as well, just simple Excels to say, okay, if I just change my pricing this year by 10%, how does it affect the bottom line? Or by decreasing the price, how does it affect the bottom line? And this makes a massive impact, especially if you're doing fundraising and you've got like a tech platform and you want to raise money for it. Just changing a few things impacts the entire chain. And most people, they just do business and they're blind to this fact that, oh my God, all because you're making more money doesn't mean you're more profitable. So this is why when you incorporate these things that I've mentioned to you, it will make a massive impact to you, whether you take risk or whether you don't take risk. And by the way, I'm going to link a video here now because this will really help you get a lot of momentum. But make sure you subscribe to the channel, like it, it'll help the right algorithm. Check out this video here.